Cole Whitman had once been pulled from a wall of fire by that very Mustang. But when he returned after 9 long years, Dusty looked at him with the cold eyes of a stranger. No joyful neigh, no step forward, just a hollow stare, as if every memory had burned away with the past. And then, a single bell rang in the wind, and everything began to shift, in a way no one could have foreseen. The first winds of summer crawled across the high mesa plateau, carrying red dust and the distant scent of scorched grass. Heavy gray clouds blanketed the sky, as if the air itself was holding its breath. A battered silver pickup truck turned off onto a rutted dirt road leading to Dustrock Ranch, its tires grinding gravel over dry mud, echoing like memories that refused to fade. Cole Whitman gripped the steering wheel so tightly the knuckles of his hands turned white. At 41, he looked older than his age. His face, once hardened by years as a firefighter, was now weathered by time and silence. The thick, sun-bleached blonde hair of his younger days was peppered with gray and tucked under a worn knit cap. But it was his eyes, deep brown, tired, and heavy, that people never forgot. They were the eyes of someone who had walked out of a wall of fire, carrying scars no medicine could touch. This ranch had once belonged to his best friend, Wade Dunley, a solitary man who lived among wild Mustangs. Wade had died of lung cancer, and according to his will, the ranch was being held under temporary care until a next of kin arrived. But Cole back for Wade. He had come back for a creature that had once changed his life. The truck came to a stop in front of a sun-bleached wooden fence. In the middle of the dry, cracked paddock stood a single Mustang. Its body was tall and powerful, bones built like stone, yet its dust-covered coat and the long scar down its left flank spoke of a life far from ordinary. Its eyes were fixed on the horizon, paying no attention to the vehicle that had just arrived. Dusty. Cole stepped out of the truck. His foot hit the ground with an awkward pause. An old back injury from a forest collapse still kept him from moving like he once had. A light drizzle began to fall, growing into a steady shower, drumming against the tin roof of the barn like the echoes of a past not yet done speaking. He walked slowly toward the fence, saying nothing. Just looking at the horse, the same horse that had pulled him from the flames when everyone else thought he was dead. The horse he'd believed lost forever in the inferno known as the Rimrock Fire. Dusty, Cole whispered, his voice hoarse as if filled with sand. His hand landed on the weathered railing, eyes unblinking, clinging to the fragile hope that the horse would turn around, step closer, let out a joyful whinny, the way it used to. But Dusty didn't move. In fact, it turned away. Stepped back, its ears tilted sideways in defense. It snorted, not angrily, not familiarly, but with complete detachment. As if Cole was just a passing stranger. That moment hit Cole like a slap to the chest. Damn it, he biting his lip to stop the tears welling in his eyes. All the way from El Paso, he'd played out 100 possible scenarios. None of them looked like this. I wouldn't get too close, a woman's voice called from behind. Cole turned to see a young woman, gray eyes like a stormy sky, hair tied up under an old cowboy hat, holding a bundle of hay. Skylar, she introduced herself. I take care of the horses. Wade hired me before he passed. Cole nodded. I'm Cole. Whitman? She squinted. The guy in the will? Yeah. Skylar looked back at Dusty. He doesn't trust anyone, especially men. After the fire, someone tried to trap him. Since then, he's been more wild than any wild animal I've ever known. Cole lowered his head. He knew all too well, because he was the one who left him behind. So, how long before Wade found him again? He asked. Skylar hesitated. About 2 years after the fire, he was wandering near the Utah border. Wade recognized him by the scar on his left flank. But even after all that time, Dusty never let anyone get close. Cole looked at Skylar, then back at Dusty. The rain soaked through his jacket, cold and steady. But not as cold as that empty stare from the horse he once called friend. We survived that fire together, he said, more to himself than to her. Now he looks at me like I was never there. Skylar was quiet for a moment, then stepped back. Some things don't mend easy, but sometimes all it takes is the right person at the right time. Cole let out a bitter laugh. Maybe I'm too late, don't you think? Skylar didn't answer. She whispered softly, barely audible beneath the rain, Maybe. You're the only one who's still right. Dusty stood there, still as a statue carved from earth and time. But in the horse's eyes, if you looked close, something flickered, something fragile, like a leaf trembling at the edge of the first wind. And Cole, shattered as he was, clung to that flicker the way a drowning man clings to a rope thrown from the shore. Mornings in High Mesa arrived early and silent, like a shallow breath. Sunlight filtered through thick clouds, casting a muted honey hue over the old wooden barn. Inside a small shed to the left of the stables, Cole Whitman lay still on a thin mattress thrown over a creaky wooden bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. He could see through the boards to some place untouched by time. He hadn't slept. Not because of the rain tapping on the tin roof the night before, not because of the ache in his back that woke him with every turn, but because of that look. Dusty's eyes. No hatred, just emptiness. As if the soul inside the horse had been taken, leaving behind a shell driven only by survival instinct. He had never imagined that, Dusty looking at him like they'd never met. Cole sat up. A sharp pain sliced down his spine, a cruel reminder that he wasn't the man he used to be. He reached under the bed and pulled out an old canvas pouch, unwrapping something small from a faded washcloth. It was a charred leather strap, the collar Dusty had worn on their final mission in the Rimrock fire. Cole had kept it with him like a talisman, even though touching it always made the scars in his memory bleed. He stepped out of the shed. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still thick with dark mud, and the air smelled like wet wood and rust, the scent of the past. Dusty stood exactly where he had the day before, unmoving, eyes fixed on some invisible point in the distance. Cole walked up to the fence, said nothing. This time, he didn't call the horse's name or raise a hand. He simply opened his palm, placed the scorched leather strap on the fence rail, like offering a relic at an altar. "Remember this?" he whispered. "We couldn't be apart when you wore it." Dusty didn't move. Only the wind brushed his thick mane, sweeping across the scar on his side like a ghost retracing old paths. "Rimrock fire. You dragged me out of that blaze. I still remember the smell of burnt hair, the sound of someone's teeth chattering from shock. But most of all, I remember your hooves, pounding through ash, pulling me free." Cole paused. His eyes stung. His hand clenched the fence rail into a fist. "And I left you behind." He turned away, hiding the tear that broke loose. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Skylar appeared, carrying a bucket of hay. Her cowboy gear was still damp and streaked with mud. She didn't speak at first, just leaned against another section of the fence, watching Dusty. "You know," she finally said, her voice as light as the breeze, "when Wade found him, he wouldn't let anyone near him for almost a year. I was the first person he didn't try to kick in the face." Cole gave a hollow smile, not looking at her. "Guess I lost to you then." Skylar tilted her head, half smirking. "I think you have something I don't." "What's that?" "A past." They were quiet for a while. Skylar set the bucket down, dusted off her hands, and stepped toward Dusty, keeping a safe distance. From her pocket, she pulled out a hard sugar cube and held it up. Dusty watched but didn't move. "There are wounds that don't heal, Cole," she said without turning. "But that doesn't mean we can't live with them." Cole took a deep breath. He wasn't sure if that was advice or a confession. But he understood the feeling. Surviving, but not living. Like he'd spent years just breathing, not existing. "You ever go through a wildfire?" he asked, for the first time really looking at her. She looked up, eyes wide. "You don't remember me, do you?" Cole frowned. "Rimrock fire. I was the last kid pulled out of that wooden cabin. You carried me a mile through burning sky." A long silence followed. "You were the blonde girl with burnt legs. Couldn't speak?" She nodded. "I was 12. Cole took a step back. Something inside him collapsed inward. He hadn't expected fate to loop around like this. He hadn't expected a living witness to remind him he'd once mattered. "So, you're the reason I can still face the world." Skylar smiled gently. "No, you're the reason I'm still alive." Her words didn't bring him pride. They pierced him like a cold needle through the heart. He had saved her, but lost Dusty, and he'd never found his way back from that moment. "Thanks for telling me," he said quietly, "but I'm still a failure." Skylar shook her head. "Not yet. Not as long as you're still here." They stood in silence until Dusty slowly took a step forward. Just one. He didn't rush, didn't whinny, but he looked at Cole's hand, where the charred strap lay on the fence. His eyes weren't hollow anymore, not quite. Now they held a flicker of thought, a cautious reach, like trying to recall something long buried. Cole held his breath. He didn't move. A breeze passed by, carrying the smell of wet grass and old wood. In that breeze was something he couldn't name, a presence, formless but real, like blood moving through a quiet vein. Dusty sniffed, then turned away again. Not yet. Cole nodded, as if an invisible voice had answered him. "We're not in a rush," he whispered. "I'll wait." Chapter 3. The Memory Without a Name. The next morning was crystal clear. Thin veils of clouds drifted lazily across a pale blue sky. The ground was still soaked from the night's rain, leaving soft, sticky mud around the fences and paths between the barns. A late rooster crow echoed behind the shed, like a voice calling out from an old dream that hadn't quite ended. Cole had risen early. He hadn't slept long. His mind kept looping back to Dusty's eyes from the day before. That glance at the burnt leather strap, followed by the quiet retreat. No anger, but no recognition either, like something sacred had been stripped away by the fire, leaving only a body that moved on instinct, no memory. He pulled on a worn flannel shirt, layered a windbreaker over it, and tugged a knit cap over his graying hair before stepping outside. The morning air in High Mesa always carried a strange calm, like the land was waiting for something to break. Dusty stood in the corner of his paddock, just as he had every morning, not looking at anyone. Cole approached the same stretch of fence where he'd tied the burnt collar the day before. This time, he'd knotted it with a fresh piece of leather, a small, deliberate ritual. He raised 2 fingers to his lips and whistled, a short, sharp whistle, exactly like the signal he used back when Dusty was still part of the rapid response team. The sound rang clear in the morning stillness, echoing through memories of them charging into burning forests. Dusty didn't move. Cole whistled again, this time longer, deeper, like calling to a part of the soul that had fallen asleep. The horse blinked, then turned away again. Cole leaned into the fence rail, clenching it hard until his knuckles showed white. "What the hell is going on with you, Dusty?" he muttered. "You're supposed to remember." Footsteps squelched in the mud behind him. Skylar appeared, holding a steaming mug of coffee. She handed it to him without saying a word. Cole took it and gave a grateful nod. "You do this every morning?" she asked softly, like her words might shatter something. "Yeah," Cole said quietly. "I keep hoping I'll wake something up." Skylar was silent for a moment, then exhaled slowly. "Wade used to say, when a horse experiences trauma that deep, it seals its memories off, like people do." Cole looked at her. "You saying I'm like Dusty?" "No," she said with a soft smile. "I'm saying Dusty is like you." The air between them stilled. I read somewhere, still staring at Dusty, that when humans go through more pain than they can handle, they go quiet. Not just with their voice, but with their soul. Like every word that could explain the pain just stops meaning anything. Cole stared down at his coffee, then nodded slowly. "You know the sound of a fire engine siren?" he asked. "Yeah. Why?" Dusty hated it. Back when he served with us, every time that siren went off, he'd toss his head, pull at the reins, nearly lose it, but he still ran toward the fire when I called. Skylar didn't respond. After Rimrock, I played a song in my truck once, just a track with a siren buried in the background. Cole inhaled deeply. Dusty kicked the stall door in, split his leg open, 5 stitches. "So you stopped playing it?" she asked. "No, I got rid of the whole truck." They both fell quiet. A breeze drifted through, making the leather strap swing gently like a metronome marking time. Then Skylar said something that sliced the silence. "Ever think, maybe he doesn't recognize you, not because he forgot, but because it hurts too much to remember?" The question hit Cole like a quiet blade through the chest. He nodded, unable to answer, then turned back toward Dusty, who was now glancing at them. Cole couldn't tell if it was accidental or intentional. But in that fleeting second, he swore the horse looked straight into him. Not like a stranger, like a mirror. Reflecting the same man who'd once run from memories, denied emotion, and locked every door that might lead back to who he truly was. "You're still in there, aren't you?" Cole whispered, eyes locked on the horse. "No matter how deep the pain, I believe you're still in there." Dusty didn't move, but he didn't turn away either. That afternoon, Cole sat alone in the storage shed, digging through an old box of keepsakes. He pulled out a few photos, one of him and Dusty standing outside the firehouse, another of them emerging from a cloud of smoke, plus a few unremarkable items no one else would care about. He touched the squad whistle, the one that used to sound off every emergency. He hesitated, then put it back in the box. Not yet. He needed a different rhythm, a new language. Outside, Skylar was walking a young filly around the yard. She paused when she saw Cole come out. "What are you planning this evening?" she asked. "Trying again," he said. "But no whistling this time. I think I'm done calling." "Then what are you hoping for?" She tilted her head. "I'm hoping Dusty speaks first." Skylar smiled, a smile that didn't fully believe, but didn't reject the idea either. "Good luck," she said. That evening Cole sat alone by the paddock. No flashlight, no sounds, no movement, just him and the pale crescent moon slipping between clouds, casting Dusty's silhouette like a shadow from the edge of night. No calling, no commands, just presence. And he hoped, for once, that it might be enough. The wind picked up by noon, the dry, electric kind, thick with the metallic tension that swept across the New Mexico highlands whenever the weather was about to turn. Cole stood outside the barn with a wooden shovel in hand, trying to clear a pile of rotting hay in the corner. Sweat beaded on his forehead, even though the sun had long disappeared behind a wall of dark clouds. Swallows dipped low in the sky, circling like creatures who could smell the rain before it ever touched earth. Skylar stepped out from behind the shed, carrying a large water jug. She looked up at the sky and frowned slightly. "This kind of wind usually brings dry lightning," she said, setting the jug down. "Sometimes a dust devil, too." Cole straightened and nodded. "Feel it in the air?" he asked. Skylar nodded, like everything's holding its breath, waiting for something to break. "Just like him," Cole said, looking toward Dusty. The Mustang stood in the far corner of the pen, hooves planted deep like stakes in the ground. His ears flicked constantly, eyes wide, tense, caught in some invisible pressure. "He's been like that all morning," Skylar said. "Hasn't eaten, hasn't drunk a drop, like he knows something's coming." Cole looked up. A heavy mass of clouds loomed from the west. No rain yet, no thunder, just pressure, the kind that builds in your bones before a strike. The air carried a strange blend of ozone, damp straw, and memory. Then it happened. A sound, not loud, not close, but clear. The whir of helicopter blades slicing through the sky. In the distance, a rescue chopper flew past the ridge, red and white body cutting through the steel sky. Its echo thundered through the valley like a war drum, pounding on the chest of anyone who'd ever survived fire. Dusty reared. Cole turned instantly. "No." The Mustang let out a piercing scream, yanking his body into a wild spin. His hooves tore into the earth, kicking up a storm of dirt. His eyes went white. The ground trembled with every slam of his feet, like he was trying to dig something loose from deep inside himself. "Helicopter!" Skylar yelled, running to the fence. "He's triggering. He's panicking." Cole moved toward Dusty, but not quickly. His hands raised, palms open, every step deliberate. His voice was steady, low, not shouting. "Dusty. Hey. It's okay. It's just sound. Just sound." The horse whipped around, foam at his mouth, sweat pouring from his back in rivers. He screamed again, then slammed into a post so hard it cracked. "Cole, don't go in there!" Skylar shouted. "He's completely gone. He could kill you." But Cole didn't stop. "I've seen him like this before," he said, eyes never leaving Dusty. "This is what he looked like, right before he saved me." He stepped into the pen. "You're insane!" Skylar screamed. "He'll break you." Cole closed the gate behind him. Dusty stomped back, mane flared, muscles coiled so tight he looked like he could explode. His ears locked forward, the veins in his neck pulsing like high-tension wire. "You remember that sound?" Cole said, voice calm but anchored. "Our last fire, the rotor overhead, sky black with smoke. You didn't leave me." He stepped closer. Dusty screamed again, rising up on his hind legs, hooves striking air, furious and wild. But Cole didn't back down. He opened his arms wide, locked eyes with the horse. "No fear. No fire this time, Dusty. No burning fields, no screaming, just me, just us." The air froze. Then the horse came down, chest heaving, breath ragged. His ears still twitched, but his eyes softened, just slightly. The whites receded. He looked exhausted. Cole took another step, slow, controlled. "You did good, old man," he whispered. "I know it's hard, but you stayed. I'm staying too." He reached out, fingers trembling. Dusty lifted his head, didn't step forward, didn't back away. Give me one more chance, Cole said softly. I owe you that. And then, for the first time in years, Dusty moved toward him. Just one step, but enough. Cole gently pressed his hand to the horse's forehead, his palm against the slick, trembling skin. A warmth shot down his spine. He could feel the pulse under the hide, fast, fierce, alive. We're going to get through this, Cole said. Dusty didn't whinny, didn't buck. He just stood there, eyes closed for a moment, like he was finally laying down a weight he'd carried alone for too long. And in that silence, Cole understood. He wasn't the only one who had carried the storm inside. Skylar stood at the edge of the fence, holding her breath. What did you just do? She asked when Cole finally stepped out, his hands still shaking. Nothing, Cole replied. I just didn't leave. That afternoon, the sky seemed to settle after a storm of emotion. The wind had died down, and the air turned heavy and still, like the entire ranch was holding a quiet exhale. Dusty stood in the middle of the paddock, not rearing, not spinning, not tearing at the earth like a hunted animal. He just stood there, head low, breathing deep and slow, like someone waking from a long fever. Cole said very little. After stepping out of the pen, he simply sat beneath the awning of the barn, watching his own hands tremble as if they'd just survived an earthquake. He knew Dusty walking toward him wasn't a victory. It wasn't a miracle. It was just a beginning, but maybe the most important one. Skylar brought him a dry towel and a cold glass of water. You did it, she said quietly. No. Cole shook his head, eyes still locked on Dusty. I just didn't run. There was a silence between them. Skylar sat beside him. He's hurt, she said softly. You saw it, didn't you? Cole nodded. Right hind leg. Every time he pivoted, he flinched just a bit. Skylar thought for a moment. I'll call the vet. No, Cole said quickly, turning to her. His eyes were steady now. Whatever was in them wasn't a request. It was a vow. If he remembers me at all, then I have to be the one to help him. Skylar opened her mouth to object, but she saw something in Cole's expression, something unshakable. She said nothing. If he really remembers, Cole added, then I'm the one who has to earn that memory. As the sky turned gold, Cole gathered an old first aid kit from the storage shed. He found a clean aluminum bucket, a few worn towels, nearly empty antiseptic, and a tube of anti-inflammatory ointment meant for horses. Everything was dusty, but usable. He carried it all to the paddock. Dusty stood in the corner, watchful but calm. When Cole entered, the Mustang didn't flinch or step away. The gate closed softly behind them, and once again it was just two scarred souls in a space carved by time. All right, Cole whispered. Let's try this again. He moved slowly, deliberately, giving Dusty every chance to feel his presence without pressure. When he was 3 steps away, he crouched and picked up a bit of dry grass, letting his movements speak of peace. Dusty watched. Cole sat down fully on the dirt floor. He didn't reach out. He didn't coax. He just existed. And waited. 1 minute, then 2. Then, Dusty took a step forward, his heavy head lowered, resting gently against Cole's shoulder. Yeah, I know, Cole murmured, placing his hand on Dusty's neck. I didn't want anyone touching me either. He began examining the wound. Just above the right hind joint was a slight swelling. The hair there stood awkwardly, the skin beneath hot to the touch. When he pressed gently, Dusty jerked but didn't kick. Sorry, Cole whispered. I have to. He dipped the towel in warm water and cleaned the area slowly, then applied the ointment in small, careful circles. With every touch, Dusty's muscles twitched, but he didn't move away. From outside the fence, Skylar watched in silence. To her it looked like an ancient rite, one man atoning for what couldn't be spoken, using only his bare hands. You're in pain, aren't you? Cole whispered. I get it. So am I. He didn't know if Dusty could hear or understand. But something inside him needed to speak. That day, when my crew scattered, I got pinned under a fallen tree. You dragged me out. But after that, I never saw you again. He paused, fist tightening around the cloth. They said you ran. They said a horse would never stay. I didn't believe them, but I didn't go back either. His voice cracked. Every word was a shard. I should have looked for you, just to know if you lived or died, but I didn't. I was afraid. My back was broken. I spent months in a hospital, but the pain in my head was worse. Dusty didn't react. He just let out a soft breath, like wind slipping through canyon stones. You weren't something that could be left behind, Cole said, eyes lifting. But I left you anyway. After the treatment, he wrapped the swelling with clean cloth and stood, backing out of the pen. He didn't turn around. He knew if he looked, his resolve would crumble. Skylar was still there, gripping a rope in her hand like she was holding back something larger than herself. "Did you just say everything you needed to?" she asked. Cole nodded. "Maybe just a piece. Maybe that piece was the most important." Cole leaned against the fence and exhaled like he was letting go of a lifetime. "He's not just a horse, Skylar. He's my friend." Skylar smiled gently. "I know." The sunset swept across the grassland, painting everything in shades of dried blood and gold. Dusty turned to face Cole. He didn't step closer, but he didn't walk away. He just stood there. And in that stillness, Cole knew something had changed. At dawn, before the dew had even lifted from the grass, Cole was already awake. No alarm clock, no rooster crow, no gust of wind, just something inside him whispering, "Today is the day you do what matters most." He opened the old chest beneath his bed, the one where pieces of a past life were buried. A bent firefighter ID tag, a notebook filled with scribbled shift logs, and a small bronze bell. It was rusted now, its leather strap cracked and brittle with time. But the sound it once made, clear, low, and deep, had meant everything. In smoke, in chaos, in the roar of falling trees and the cries of dying men, that sound was what let them know, "I'm still here." Cole held the bell gently and wiped off the dust. When the morning light filtered through the cracked window, the bronze glowed faintly, like the memory of a whisper long buried. Outside, Skylar was stacking hay. She looked up when she saw what he was holding. Her expression shifted. "That's a signal bell," Cole nodded. "He used to wear it whenever we went into thick smoke, so I could tell he was still alive." Skylar lowered her broom. "You think he still remembers?" "I don't know," Cole said quietly, "but I haven't forgotten." Dusty stood in the yard, same as every morning, eyes watchful, body alert, but no longer distant. He let Cole approach now. He didn't bolt, didn't tense up. He had touched Cole again. Stood close, stayed. Cole stopped 10 paces away, inhaled deeply. Then, without a word, he rang the bell. It wasn't loud, not shrill, but low and resonant, like a hum from somewhere deep inside the earth. The air froze. Even the sparrows on the barn roof stopped chirping. Dusty stopped too. His ears shot up. His head turned slowly, deliberately toward the sound. His eyes widened, and in that flicker of recognition, Cole saw it. Not instinct, memory. He rang it again. His hands trembled, but his gaze stayed fixed. Dusty took a step, light, careful, like testing ground that once gave way. Cole said nothing. He didn't call, didn't beckon. Let the bell speak, because if anything could reach across the fire and silence of all those years, it was that sound. Dusty took another step, and another, until he was just 1 arm's length away. Cole knelt, placed the bell gently into his palm, and held it out. Dusty lowered his head, touched the bell. His deep brown eyes reflected something back. Not a ghost, not a stranger, but a man who had fallen and risen again, because a horse once didn't leave him behind. "You remember me now, don't you?" Cole whispered, voice cracking. "Thank you for coming back." Dusty leaned in, pressed his forehead to Cole's. No sound, no movement, just stillness, a sacred moment between two souls who had once shared fire. From a distance, Skylar stood at the fence, hand over her chest. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You did it," she whispered, but even she knew she was wrong. He hadn't done it. They, Cole and Dusty, had found each other again. That afternoon, Cole attached the bell to a new leather strap, but he didn't hang it around Dusty's neck. Instead, he tied it to the gatepost, right where the wind could catch it. "To remind us," he said to Skylar, "not of the past, but of a promise." "What promise?" she asked. "That this time, I won't walk away." Days passed. Dusty started coming closer on his own. He didn't isolate himself anymore. When Cole entered the yard, Dusty would turn his head. Sometimes he'd take a few steps forward, just enough to be near. Every morning, Cole continued treating Dusty's injured leg. The ointment helped, the swelling eased. But more than healing the body, it was healing of another kind. One morning, while a light rain drizzled on the tin roof, Cole and Skylar shared coffee in the barn. Skylar asked, "Did you ever think you wouldn't come back?" "Yeah," Cole admitted. "I thought some things, once lost, just stay gone. And now?" He was silent for a moment, then said, almost to himself, "Now I know, some things never really leave. They just go quiet, waiting to be remembered." Before turning in that night, Cole walked to the paddock one last time. Dusty was lying down, his body relaxed in the hay. When he saw Cole, he blinked once, then lowered his head again in comfort. Cole smiled, sat beside the gate. He took out the bell, gave it a gentle shake, just loud enough for Dusty alone to hear. The soft chime rang out in the hush of night. No reply came, but it wasn't needed. In the shadows, a horse lifted his head, ears alert, then let out a long, steady breath, and slept. That morning, dawn rose slowly, as if even the sun was hesitant about what was coming. The light wasn't golden like usual. It was tinged with a soft pink glow that stretched across the barn roof, the weathered fences, and the dew-kissed grass. The air carried the scent of damp earth, dry hay, and something else, something hushed. Cole stood outside Dusty's stall at first light. He brought nothing with him. No halter, no rope, no whistle, no bell. He opened the gate, no command, no coaxing. Dusty stepped out, slowly, steadily, without pause. He stopped in front of Cole, not shy, not waiting for a cue. They simply looked at each other, a look that didn't require language. A knowing that had been hard-earned through silence and fire and forgiveness. Cole took a step forward. Dusty followed. Together, they left the paddock behind, past the old barn, the leaning fences, the morning haze still curling over the fields. Skylar stood on the porch, coffee in hand. She didn't say a word. She just watched, eyes wide, afraid she might blink and miss it. "This is the first time," she whispered, "and the last time it'll ever need a miracle." The southern pasture of the ranch was where Wade had once let Dusty run wild. A rolling meadow that sloped toward a lush green valley, framed by the purple shadows of the Jicarilla Mountains on the far horizon. Cole and Dusty walked side by side. No one led, no one followed. No reins, no pressure, no destination. They just moved forward, as if this walk was all there was left to do in life, and the only thing that had ever mattered. The breeze caught Dusty's mane, lifting it like a flag. In his eyes, Cole saw the glint of days long gone, and something new. Peace. And Cole? Cole was breathing differently too. Not like a man weighed down. Not like a man surviving. But like someone who'd finally come up for air after years beneath the surface. He stopped in the middle of the field. Dusty stopped too. Cole bent down, picked up a long blade of grass and twisted it into a small circle. He held it up to his eye like a camera lens. "This moment," he whispered, "I'm going to carry it to the end." Dusty let out a soft nicker, gentle and low, like agreement. Skylar had followed at a distance, careful not to intrude. She brought an old camera, film, not digital. She didn't raise it right away. First, she just stood there, soaking it in, making sure the moment was real. Then, with a breath, she clicked the shutter. That photo would hang in the barn one day. No one would need to ask. Anyone who saw it would understand. It wasn't just a man and a horse. It was two souls, once broken, now whole again. A few days later, Cole made a phone call to a friend back in El Paso. "I'm not selling the ranch," he said. "I'm staying." "With who?" the friend asked. Cole smiled. I think with myself and Dusty." He hung up, feeling a little lighter. From that day on, every morning Cole walked Dusty out to the field. No training, no purpose, just walks. And every step was healing. Every breath, a kind of resurrection. Sometimes Skylar joined them. Sometimes she talked, sometimes she was silent. Sometimes she walked just close enough to listen to the rhythm of two survivors learning to live again. "Do you think this horse is the reason you survived?" she once asked. "No," Cole answered. "I think I'm the reason he did." One late afternoon, as the sun lay down behind the Jicarilla ridges, Skylar found Cole sitting by the fence, gazing at the horizon. Dusty grazed nearby, peaceful and slow. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "The last time I saw a friend sit still like this," Cole said. "It was Wade. He once told me, if there's a place where a man's soul can finally be forgiven, it has to be somewhere with a horse in it." Skylar said nothing. "And now," Cole added, "I think he was right." A week later, as summer turned toward fall, Skylar handed Cole a small notebook. "Write it down," she said. "All of it." "For who?" he asked. "For the ones who don't believe a horse can save a man's life," Cole chuckled. "I'm no writer." "Just be honest," she said. He opened the first page and wrote, "You were never just a horse, you were my friend." On the final morning of the season, Dusty was already outside the stall before Cole appeared. No bell, no call, just presence. Cole stepped into the light, eyes calm, steady, with a quiet kind of faith. He and Dusty walked into the field together, slow, unhurried. Skylar stood at the fence, one hand resting on the wood, watching the two silhouettes, man and Mustang, fade into the golden horizon. She smiled because she knew this wasn't a return. This was a rebirth. If you believe that some bonds never truly disappear, drop a 1 in the comments below. If you've ever witnessed a reunion that tightened your chest, leave a 0. And if Cole and Dusty's journey touched your heart, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next stories, where friendship, courage, and timeless memories live on, in the eyes of a Mustang and the quiet steps of those who find their way back.